All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays. They work in your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Post-Game Show. I am Ace, and I am joined by none other than the ever-intelligent Chris Brown. And I'll tell you what, he must be in a very, very good mood tonight. That's all I can say.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Fly, Eagles, fly. So, before we get started, the first thing I want to hit on is I just want to talk about our shirts, right? Our shirts. I want to talk about how can you win a free shirt? So, Chris, how can we win a free shirt?
Man, to win a free shirt, like our videos, share our videos, but most importantly, comment on our videos, and engage with us. We respond to all comments. We respond with all our viewers. The more you engage is the more likely you'll be able to win such an awesome t-shirt. I mean, all sports, all plays. You know you want it. All you got to do is keep engaging and you'll get it for free.
Now, keep in mind, if you don't hop on the show and comment, there is another way that you can actually get a shirt without jumping on the show and commenting. If you want to spend $25, just spend $25 plus shipping and handling. To me, that's a fantastic deal.
Yes.
That's a great deal. Look at how awesome these shirts are. You could walk around like me and some of our analysts and wear our shirts, and you can rock these shirts. You can show us that you represent All Sports and All Plays Network. What do you think about these awesome shirts, Chris?
I mean, I love the shirts. Like, look at them. Who wouldn't want an All Sports, All Plays shirt? Who want to rock the brand, the great brand that we are, the great network that we are? Support us and go get one of those shirts.
So, the first thing that I'll start out with on this is Brandon Herrera is leaving a comment strictly for you, Chris. And his comment is, where's that big smile at? He wants to see that big smile tonight.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Oh, you'll see a lot of it this week entirely.
So the first game we're going to touch on tonight is obviously that Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. So with you being the Eagles fan, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you the first crack at it. So go ahead and give me your analysis on the Sunday night game.
This is what I'm going to say. Fly, Eagles, fly. I don't understand. Everybody's, I'm already getting messages. Well, you beat the Cowboys, they didn't have their starting quarterback, but this, but that, but that. Isn't a win in the NFL? Why can't this team be congratulated for getting a victory? Any other team, if they beat a bad team, they're still getting congratulations because they have to get it done. But it's because of the Eagles. If we get it done, it seems to be a problem. Listen, I know it was an ugly game, but the defense was dominant the entire game. We sacked Ben DiNucci 4 times. We honestly should have sacked them more. We literally dropped 3 or 4 pick sixes, so the defense was fine. But this offense and Carson Wentz and the play calling, it was atrocious. Now, the running game was great. 119 yards on the ground. That was outstanding. But Carson Wentz was terrible. He was terrible. He threw 2 terrible interceptions. I know you weren't sweating until this. Yeah, I was sweating. I was sweating. Shirt off, doing my push-ups, lifting my weights. I was heated. But yeah, Carson Wentz was terrible. Those 2 interceptions were just 2 unnecessary throws he made. Where he needs to learn how to throw the ball away. That's his biggest knock right now. He's always looking for that big play, that big play, that big play. And every time he does that, it's an interception. You look at tonight, every single pass, more than 20 yards, The 3 passes he made more than 20 yards, 2 of them were interceptions. What does that tell you? He was forcing everything tonight. That play call in Carson Wentz was atrocious, but regardless, the Philadelphia Eagles beat this Dallas Cowboys team. Their defense is healthy. Their defense played they played okay. We were still able to move the ball. Our offense played, our running game was fine. We still were able to score. So congratulate this Eagles team. The Cowboys are trash, and I'm ready for all the Cowboys' excuses that we didn't have a starting quarterback. But everybody, calls my quarterback trash, and he played like trash, and we still got the victory. So quarterback, I don't want to hear none of that. Fly, Eagles, fly.
So, with you being an Eagles fan, I want to know, what would you give if you had to give a grade to Carson Wentz tonight? What grade would you give him? Because I know for a while you were frustrated with Carson Wentz. You were posting on your page saying how frustrated you actually were.
Yes. Tonight,
so what grade?
Tonight he's F. Tonight flat out Carson Wentz gets an F. Now let me say this. He gets a D plus because he did have 2 touchdowns. He did make some good throws. He was able to move around in the pocket. But regardless, a lot of his throws, and he had players drop passes, which has honestly been a problem for this Eagles team all year. But specifically going on tonight, yes, he made some good throws, but he made so many terrible throws. He lost 2 fumbles. That 4th down fumble, around midfield, I don't blame him because there's a miscommunication inside the guard box. Nobody picked up the blitzer. But that other fumble, he needs to learn how to throw the ball away. And that was his biggest knock all season. That was his biggest knock today. So my grade for Carson Wentz is a D plus, which is bad. My starting quarterback getting a D plus. But just because I'm an Eagles fan, not going to say just because we got a victory, he gets an A. He played terrible. He almost lost me the game.
All right, so if you had to look at one guy on this Eagles team that really stepped up tonight that you would say, I have to give a game ball to, who would you give it to?
Man, that's tough. On the offensive side, it's between Fulgham and Boston Scott. I think they played very, very well. On the defense side, I can't really pick anybody. I mean, TJ Edwards, he's our run stopper, and he played great today. You look at our D-line, we were able to get sacks. Actually, I'm giving it to TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards going to get my game ball. No matter offense or defense, the offense, it's between Scott and Fulgham, but overall, I'm giving it to TJ Edwards. He played a hell of a game.
Now, the interesting aspect about this, how many different teams has Fulgham been on that he's been cut off of the roster? And tell me, aren't you kind of happy that you have this guy now? He's come out of nowhere and actually has impressed.
Yes, I believe he was on the Lions, if I'm not mistaken, and the Packers.
Yes.
And I'm glad that we got him, and we needed him. You look at, Marquise Goodwin. That was a big trade we did this offseason. He was going to have a big role for us. He opted out, and I now fully embrace him and support him in his decision. Look at Alshon Jeffrey. He's yet to come back. We're about to go into week 9. We haven't seen, play from him yet. He's supposed to be our number 1. You look at Deshaun Jackson, injury. Now I feel like he's out for the year. You look at Jalen Reagor, he just now is coming back. You can see why we draft him, the explosive plays. But, he's been injured all year. Greg Ward, he's good, but he's been a little bit inconsistent. John Hightower, he drops all these passes. That one receiver that's been dominant all year has been Fulgham. So me, I'm grateful. I know the Eagles are grateful. That organization and the fan base is grateful because not only is he balling out this year, but I do believe he's going to be back on this team next year. You look at Greg Ward. He earned his spot on this year's teams. He makes some plays. He drops passes a lot, in my opinion, but he does make some plays. So Fulgham, that connection him and Carson Wentz is having, it's only going to get better and better when we go into this next stretch, after our bye in week 10 where we play all these playoff teams. You're going to see that connection if it's legit or not.
Now, as we saw, Beneducci, he started off actually pretty hot. He started off good. It wasn't fantastic, but he started off decent. So as an Eagles fan, when you look at and be like, okay, he's their 3rd string quarterback. You don't really know much about the guy. There's not much tape on the guy. How concerned were you, honestly, before the game started?
Well, the little bit I did hear about this guy, I heard he was okay in college. He was mobile. We were able to see that today. And, I don't honestly think he's that bad of a quarterback. He just didn't have a lot of experience in his show tonight. But, I was still worried. One, because both these teams both have a lot of injuries. A lot of their, key players are not playing. So I knew injuries was going to play effect in this game. Then at the end of the day, it's still a divisional game. And at the end of the day, it's still 2 teams that's been playing bad. Regardless of injuries, they still have been playing bad. So, I didn't think this was going to be a blowout. I saw a lot of people saying we were going to score 50. I didn't see it. I knew that their offense was going to struggle. We have a very, very good run defense, and they were really, all their big plays were off gimmick plays, So, they were running the ball a little bit, but I think our defense, held our own. I wasn't worried about him at all. I was worried about the gimmick plays, Zeke getting the ball, and that was most of the offense, honestly, the entire game up until what garbage yards he got in the fourth quarter.
So speaking of Zeke, Zeke has been typically what you would call one of the best backs in all of NFL since he's come in. So my question is to you,
Top five.
so do you think he's struggling this year, or I would say currently right now, because Dak Prescott's out, or do you think it's the O-line? Because I don't know, just something about Zeke this year, he's just having a really bad year.
I don't blame it on Zeke at all. You look at Mike McCarthy; he's been a guy that I feel like neglected up until up until Dak Prescott got injured to run the ball. Zeke, to me, I said top five. I honestly think he's top four running back in this game. And regardless of offensive line, you need to feed that workhorse because he's the guy. Mike McCarthy doesn't know because he wasn't coaching this team. But the previous years, and especially when they were competitive, Zeke first couple years in the NFL, he was the guy. That main guy on the offense, getting a lot of yards, getting a lot of workload. I don't know why they went away from that this year. They completely went away from that. And now, look against the Eagles, he ran the ball 19 times for 63 yards. Well, first of all, they have a great run defense, so I didn't expect Zeke to go off. But, yes, they have some offensive line injuries, but they did get Zach Martin back. And you saw, in that second, third, a little bit of the fourth quarter, they were running a lot of plays off of Zach Martin blocks, whether that was a double team, whether that was a pull, whether that was straight one-on-one. So I don't really want to blame the O-line. Teams are stacking the box on them with the O-line hurt and Dak. They can't pass the ball. I mean, that is true. That is true. But, I mean, you look at the game against Washington. He didn't run the ball a lot before, and Andy Dalton was playing bad, but he's still a quarterback that can make throws. We were stacking the box, yes. But still, regardless, even when they had Dak, to me, Zeke, wasn't getting the same amount of touches. To answer that question, I don't think it's Zeke or the O-line. I blame the coaches out of anybody.
Yeah, and I know a lot of, and like you were saying, a lot of Dallas fans are going to look at this and be like, we had our third string quarterback playing. Mm-hmm. But I'm not even so sure if you have a Andy Dalton playing in this game that this is going to make much of a difference.
I don't either. Andy Dalton was the best backup quarterback in the league, but regardless, their offense, when they had Andy Dalton, they were still trying to throw the ball a lot, but they weren't scoring any points. So I wasn't worried about that because I know they can have all the yards. They're not going to score. When they try to run, it's going to be shut down. Their defense is bad. So, yes, we scored off that crazy fumble recovery. But at the end of the day, we didn't play. I don't know. We played bad offense. Regardless, this is what I would say. Andy Dalton would not have made a difference. Do Cowboys make a move for a solid QB? No, I think they go and try to get I don't think they go out and try to get a QB because if I'm not mistaken, Andy Dalton comes back next week. I don't think they go out and try to get a QB.
Yeah, he does. He comes back.
Mm-hmm. He should
anyways.
The deadline's Tuesday.
The 3rd. Yeah, yes. Yeah, it's the 3rd. So, and when you look at this Cowboys team, they're actually pretty stacked on offense. They have Zeke, they have Cooper, they have Gallup, they have a CeeDee Lamb. I would say that the only part on offense that you would say is their weak spot is their tight end.
That's and he's not even that bad to me. I think he's decent. I'm not saying he's a top 10 tight end at all, but I think he's a tight end that can do his job. He's an average, a little bit above average tight end. So I don't even think, and when I look at them, I don't think they have a true weak spot on offense when it comes to those skill positions.
So that was Jason is saying that he feels like Andy Dalton would have made a difference because Danichi can't throw a ball to save his life.
Andy Dalton would have got sacked just like he got sacked. That's why I don't see it making a big difference, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything really to do with Danichi not being able to throw. It was the offensive line. That's pretty much what it came down to. They could not stop Philadelphia.
The dominant defensive line.
They just could not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to, and so I'm just touching on this really quick on the Dallas side. So if you had to give Danichi a grade in his first start, And without being biased, and I
Mm-hmm.
completely understand, what grade would you give him?
Honestly, I give him a C. A C, a C plus. Personally, I really don't think a lot of the Pat. If you really watch that game, you can say he didn't make a lot of throws. But listen, at the end of the day, this dude, Amari Cooper was dropping passes. Zeke dropped a couple passes. So many receivers were dropping passes. And at the end of the day, like I said, that defensive line was getting after him. I don't think he really played a terrible game. I'm not even being, I could be biased say he had an F because we sacked him 4 times. Yes, he has to be able to throw the ball away. A lot of quarterbacks have that problem. Yes, he mistimed a lot of throws, but a lot of receivers and running backs dropped a lot of his passes that he put on the money with players in his face. So personally, I don't think he's the worst quarterback that we've seen right now in the NFL. He honestly played a decent game for me.
So you actually think he played better than Carson Wentz?
Yeah. Carson Wentz threw 2 interceptions. He did throw touchdowns, but he threw 2 interceptions. Now I will say this. I agree. C, I got to think about this. I might go back. I might go from C plus to C minus because I will say this. Ben DiNucci almost threw 4 pick sixes. He didn't throw them. He didn't
Right.
throw them. So it's still 0 picks, but he almost threw them. So around that C range to me.
And no, Jason, I would not say you do not shut down Zeke.
No.
There's no reason for it. You
No.
don't do that. And however, because you are the Eagles fan, J-Mac actually asked another question, and his question was: even though the Eagles are in first place at this time, do you consider trying to play with Jalen Hurts?
No, why would we try to play with Jalen Hurts? I mean, listen, I understand Carson Wentz threw those 2 interceptions. I understand Carson Wentz has a problem with trying to, make the big play all the time. But at the end of the day, Carson Wentz, he's the heart of this team. One thing he shows, regardless that he's going to put everything on the line for his team to be successful. He doesn't care about his own personal stats. Yes, he has all those interceptions. Some of those interceptions, he was just trying to make plays because he know the team around him was not bad. Now, if we had a full healthy squad, he was playing like this, then I'd say bench him. But I mean, when you have everybody in his face every single second, I'm not giving him an excuse. I'm just looking at the reason why he's trying to make every play. He's trying to help this team out right now. So at the end of the day, I'm not playing Jalen Hurts. I'm not playing an unexperienced quarterback. We're first in the division. We play the Giants next week, then a bye. Then we're going against all playoff teams. I'm sticking with Carson Wentz because at the end of the day, we're first in this division, and it's our division to lose.
So I don't know if you would agree with me on this statement or not, but I feel as if even though this is Mike McCarthy's first year and they have been bad, especially on the defensive side, to me it kind of feels like this Cowboys team is kind of giving up on McCarthy in a little bit. It feels like they're not really playing for him.
It was a lot. It's been a lot of reports saying that the coaching this and coaching that, and I wouldn't be surprised because the coaching has been bad. Now, for me, I don't like leaking things. I wouldn't leak anything to the media without having an in-house conversation. Now, if they had that or not, I don't know. But one of my predictions about this game, I don't know if they're going to do it. But I said if the Cowboys play bad, I would not be surprised if Mike McCarthy gets fired on Monday.
Ooh.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So you're already going there. You're already going that far, saying he'll get fired on Monday. But
if the players don't like him and they can't play for him, then why would he be there? Now, that's my prediction. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if this guy gets fired on Monday.
The only reason I would say that Mike McCarthy may not get fired is because I believe Jerry Jones might put into the aspect that, yes, Dak Prescott is hurt. There is injuries on the O-line. Now, the one coach that I might foresee getting fired would be Aaron Nolan on the defensive side of the ball. I could definitely see that.
I don't know. Well, I will say this. They brought up something nice, in the commentary watching, when I was watching the game, which I've been saying all along so far this year. No training camp, no really OTAs, not being able to meet because of COVID. When you're installing a new system, not being able to meet in person, that's going to affect that. So when you install a new defense and you don't have time to go over and work on this defense, it's not going to – and then they don't even have good players on the defense. So I understand that their defense has been playing bad, but it's not like they have good players on their defense, like the Tennessee Titans to me, who defense has been trashed, but they actually have some quality players. The Dallas Cowboys really do not have quality players on their defense. So I'm not surprised they're giving up a lot of points. I mean, I've been saying this from the get go. So I don't, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired, but I don't really see the blame.
And Kendall Lum, I do want to agree with you on that when you said the offense is bland, just like it was in Green Bay. I will agree with you on that because to me, the offensive system that McCarthy runs, I feel like it's outdated and it's no longer suited for the current NFL. It's just not there. I feel like it's not.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like they have a whole bunch of yards, but they're not scoring points. So is that really worth anything? If you're putting up yards but you can't score, that's not a good offense in my book.
No, it's not, and it's with the whole thing with like we were saying, Mike McCarthy's always been pass first. He's never
Yes,
been a running style coach, and we know that. And the
and
problem with that is, especially when you're down to your third string quarterback, and you're like, oh, we're gonna pass, we're gonna pass, we're gonna pass. Even your second string and Andy Dalton, you're like, pass, 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 pass. When you have one of the best running backs in football,
top
I just
four.
I just don't understand that. I I just don't get it.
I've been saying it from the get go. When they drafted CeeDee Lamb, I said this is either going to be a blessing or a curse because now I feel like they're going to, which to me I don't even think. I mean he's been playing great, but I don't even know if I would draft him because they didn't need him. I said it's either going to be a blessing or a curse because now I feel like they're going to be forced to pass the ball, and that's going to be their downfall. And this year so far, the pass has been their downfall. It was the downfall with Dak. It was the downfall with Dalton. Right now, I don't know what they're going to do honestly. I'm not stressing. They can keep doing what they're doing right now. Let my Eagles, sustain our dominance in this division.
So my last question about Dallas before we move on to the other afternoon games.
Mm-hmm.
How many wins do you foresee Dallas getting this year? Are you going to be like, okay, they're going to pretty much say it's time to pack it in and just get early round pick?
Well, let's pull up Dallas' schedule. I have it right in front of me. So they play the Steelers next week. That's a massive L. They play the Minnesota Vikings, L. Washington football team again, L. Baltimore Ravens, L. Cincinnati, I don't know. Cincinnati offense is playing good, but their defense is trash. And so when you look at a team like Dallas that can't stop a nosebleed, who knows about that game? San Fran, L. Philadelphia, week 16, L. And the Giants, at this point, it's a toss up. So, I don't see them winning a lot of games. Right now, they have 2 wins. They might get 5.
Right. Okay. So do you foresee them finishing? See, at this point, I would see them finishing probably third in the East.
Second or third, it's between them. It's honestly between them and the Washington football team because they have a very good, defensive line, but everything else, and good, a good wide receiver, but everything else is questionable. But with that good defense, they might be able to sneak up some wins.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now jumping into some of the afternoon games. The first one that I want to hit on, and I'll tell you, this was an absolute crazy game. And we're talking about the LA Chargers versus the Denver Broncos. This LA Chargers team has now had four their last 4 losses. They've had 16 plus point lead in all 4 games, and they've blown every single one. Today, I'm looking at
Just don't know.
the game going, there's no way the Broncos are coming back. And guess what? They came back and they beat the Chargers.
Listen, man, I just don't know. Both teams to me, I think seasons were very, very affected by injuries, and I knew this would be a close game. And looking at it, especially in the first 3 quarters, I'm like, oh my goodness, what's Drew Lock's future going to be with this Denver Broncos team? That's my initial thought because my guy Nate, I know you listen. This is my future with the Broncos. If Drew Lock doesn't have a great season, they're going to do what they did with Tim Tebow and they're going to find our next quarterback with this very good roster, and Drew Lock's going to be gone. But Drew Lock stepped up. They had they played well. They got the victory. Philip Lindsay, he gave you good yards, 83. That receiving game, finally, Jerry Jeudy to me, 73 yards. I'm okay with that. But the Chargers and blowing leads, I just don't understand. This is Justin Herbert's, to me, first bad game through 2 interceptions. I'm just disappointed in the Chargers. I had them winning this game, and they blew it. They flat out blew it.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of talk now, which I'm actually on board with this. It's time, in my honest belief, it's time to fire the defensive coordinator. You can't keep blowing games like they have been and expect to keep your job. There's just
AFC
no
version of the Falcons. They're the AFC version of the Falcons at this point.
but how much of the blame are you putting on Anthony Lynn as the head coach?
Um, he has to take some blame. You can go the route where we have injuries. We're young, but at the end of the day, when you have 16-point leads, you have to have a better game plan to sustain those leads. I mean, you look at the game. I really feel like they should have won. It would have been a statement on their season. Is against the Saints. You blow that game against a team that a lot of people think they can win the Super Bowl. So for me, looking at that game, especially than all the other games they blown leads, a lot of blame to me has to go on that coaching staff. Players have to play better, but when you start blowing leads, everybody's involved and everybody has to be to blame.
So he had the Chargers winning by 1. Honestly, I didn't think that this game was going to be as close as it was when the Chargers came out and Herbert was playing fantastic in the
Playing
first
lights
half.
out.
I thought that the Chargers were going to come out and just run away with this game. And then here comes the second half. The Chargers, the second half again, especially that fourth quarter. That fourth quarter, that momentum just completely shifted. And Denver took that game over in the fourth quarter. Like Denver was, there was 2 drives in the fourth quarter that they scored on 3 play. Like it was 3 play drives. LA was just giving up big chunks after big chunks after big chunks. You cannot do that and expect to win games.
You definitely cannot do that. But shout out to the Denver Broncos. They should have been fighting for a playoff spot, but injuries messed up their season. I'm disappointed. Not in them, just in the fact that injuries messed up their season.
Are you still with the expanded playoffs? Are you still giving Denver a chance to maybe sneak in there?
No, I don't think they have a chance. With there's other teams, that I think have a better chance of getting in there, and are better rosters in general than they are right now.
So Brandon Herrera is actually asking, is Herbert still in the Rookie of the Year talking? And you know what? He is. Absolutely he is.
Yes. You look at him versus Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, he's not winning anything. So, I mean, it's not like Joe Burrow's dominating, winning all these games. Now, he won today. They did a shocking victory today. But, it's not like they're playoff bound. So, to me, he's still in there, talking about the wide receivers. There's some wide receivers that, might sneak up in there, offensive rookie of the year. But, man, at the end of the day, I agree with that. Well, that's a tough one.
Because Burrow's playing really good, too.
Burrow is still playing. They're both, I would say this, they're both very, very good. Very, very talented, adapted to be thrown in the fire immediately and ran off with it. Joe Burrow was expected to be the starter since day one. Justin Herbert came in there and balled out, played very, very well for a rookie. So I will say this. I don't know which rookie is the best right now, but I think, how it stands right now, you can argue they're the top 2.
Yeah, I guess if I had to give edge-wise at the moment, and if I had to look at, I guess by looking at roster-wise, I might have to say that Joe Burrow, I would slightly maybe give it to him just based off roster-wise.
Yeah, his O-line is bad, though. But he has some weapons, and that's good. You can't take that. He has some weapons, and they making plays.
Yeah, but I just feel like the Chargers are more of a complete team than what the Bengals are. That's why definitely. That's why at this point, I would slightly give the advantage to Burrow.
Yeah, I can see that. They do have a better overall roster. I can see
not
that.
By much though. Not by much.
Not
the quarterback
the Chargers
side.
playing. Oh yeah, it's very, very close. It's right here. Oh, you can't see me right here.
right there. All right, so the next afternoon game that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints versus the Chicago Bears. An overtime game. New Orleans was able to pull it off in the overtime game. Now, what shocks me is that when people are talking about one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, why don't people mention Drew Brees more than what they should? Look at what he did today with minus Sanders, minus Thomas, minus Callaway. He had 3 of his top receivers out, and he still managed to pull off the victory.
We talking about in the game right now of all time.
I'm talking about all time.
Oh, all time. Oh, because he doesn't win anything in the postseason. That's why he has no postseason success.
No, I get it, but still, look at what the guy has accomplished, and he manages to win games with very little,
Yeah,
especially like today.
I do think he's a great quarterback to me, but the fact that he has very little postseason success is why honestly he's not considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I mean that upper echelon, that top five. A lot of people I've talked to about this conversation, unless they're true Saints fans, don't have Drew Brees in their top five, and I personally don't have him on my top five.
Which I do want to give a shout out to Drew Brees today because Drew Brees
Hmm.
is now the all-time leader in touchdowns
Oh
thrown.
yeah, all the stats are his. I will say this:
Absolutely.
Drew Brees, and that him and Sean Payton, what they were able to do in New Orleans was legendary. You're talking about a coach and a quarterback combo that really put up all the yards, all the touchdowns. They didn't always have the best roster around them. They didn't, but they had years where they were, especially the past couple years, where they were supposed to make it, and they just have no playoff luck. But you look tonight, 31 for 41, 280, two touchdowns, only sacked once. But like you said, without his two leading receivers, who's that next best pass catcher? That's my guy, Alvin Kamara. And bold prediction. Bold prediction. Well, I don't even want to say bold prediction. This is just how I feel. If you put Alvin Kamara on a team that doesn't have, the best weapons around him, doesn't have the best QB, doesn't have the best wide receivers, he would be in that top, three running back class, in my opinion. He has the same skill set of McCaffrey, same skill set of Saquon. He can catch and he can run the ball. It's just because he's sharing, touches in the backfield. And he has a lot of great receivers around him. His stats isn't like, Christian McCaffrey stats. But if you spot places, Alvin Kamara is doing the same thing. So I feel like people need to start putting respect on Alvin Kamara's name. Had over 150 total yards today. He's a beast. He's a baller. And that's all I had to say about Alvin. He's a beast
Yeah,
to me.
and that's actually funny because you took the words out of my mouth on that one because my next question was going to be, people talk about Zeke, they talk about Christian McCaffrey, they talk about Nick Chubb, but why isn't there a lot of talk about Alvin Kamara? I just don't get it. If you look at this guy, he's got it all.
He
He's
has
got
it all.
every talent like he can possibly have. He does everything.
I think early on the problem was you had him and Mark Ingram. He was really looked, more as the pass catcher running back, but he can still run the ball. I mean, this dude has incredible balance. He's very, very strong. But now he's splitting carries with Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray had 8 carries today. You look at a lot of top running backs, they don't really split a lot of carries, especially in clutch time. They're on the field. They're having the most productions. So I do feel like Alvin Kamara, to me, should get more respect. Had over 21 total touches. To me, it should be more. He deserves more. He signed that, extension. I feel like he, is going to get more in the long term. Alvin Kamara just deserves more respect in general.
Yeah, and the funny thing is teams know that Thomas is hurt and Sanders is hurt, and they go, okay, who's Drew Brees going to go to? They go, he's going to Alvin Kamara. And
Yeah.
guess what? They still can't stop him.
They can't
And-
stop it at all.
and
And,
they-
it's funny.
And they know it's coming, and they just can't stop the guy.
Yeah, I mean, they almost lost today, though. And the congratulations for them getting this victory. But I will say this. I understand they're having injuries, but everybody, when it comes to injuries with a certain team, they say no excuses. So I don't want no excuses being said by the Saints. They're looking a little suspect. That defense is, they play good, but they look a little suspect sometimes.
Yes, because they were allowing a quarterback by the name of Nick Foles to get him back in that game. Now,
He was sacked 5 times.
There was a lot of talk in that game today to where they're like, is it time to go back to Mitch Trubisky? Because they benched him to bring in Nick Foles. And this is the situation. Like, if you're a Bears fan at this point in time, your two options are Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. Which one do you want to go with at this point?
At this point, it doesn't matter. People call me crazy when I say Nick Foles is a little bit overrated. Yes, I understand he led my team to the Super Bowl. Yes, I'm forever grateful for what he did in that playoff run. But they act like this dude is really a top 20 quarterback in the league when he's not. If you ask me who am I taking, Nick Foles or Andy Dalton, I don't know because they're pretty similar. Outside of that 1 year, he had very, very, he had a lot of success. I think he threw like 20-some touchdowns, only 2-3 interceptions. You look at every single season after that, where has he been? So please stop acting like Nick Foles is a great quarterback because he had a great playoff run. I commend him for that. Like I said, I'm forever grateful for Nick Foles. He hopped on the train and he helped lead us to a Super Bowl. But it doesn't matter to me which one you're taking because they're both going to be inconsistent. And honestly, they're both not working with a lot. The running game is suspect. Wide receivers haven't been good since they had Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. So I don't know. That offense is bad. So regardless of what quarterback you have, they have no weapons. So they're both going to play the same.
No, and Nick Foles is more of a guy that you would turn to bring him in a game.
Mm-hmm.
He tends to play better off the bench.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that you can be like, you're going to come out and you're going to give me 13 to 14 games. He's not that type of quarterback.
That one good season, like I'm telling you, where he had to come in for, I think, an injured Mike Vick, took over and thrived. Other than that, this man has never had a very, very good season. But yes, the lack of weapons on offense, they're a bad team. So, like, regardless who's playing quarterback with no weapons, Dave Montgomery, yes, gave you 21 carries, but, 89 yards. That's not the best when it comes to production and running the ball. This team needs weapons, and whatever quarterback they play is going to struggle.
Robinson, though, is actually – I'm not.
He's legit. He's legit.
He is.
But outside of him, who and you could just double team him and then playing with bums. No, I won't playing with bums. They're not doing anything. Playing with bums, guys that are not doing their job to the best of their ability, and they're fine with playing 1-on-1. You double team Allen Robinson. Who else is going to beat you? That's how I would look at it as a defense coordinator. I double team their best player. Who else will beat me? Nobody.
Yeah, the reason why this Bears team is as good as they are, I'm not going to take anything away from their defense. Their defense
is legit.
They are legit on defense.
And they lost a lot of players, but they still moving forward.
I mean, you have a beast in Khalil Mack on the defensive side of the ball. That's why the Bears tend to win as many games as they do, because of that. The Bears need to find that one. But that's always been the problem with the Bears franchise. They seem to struggle with finding quarterbacks. That's the one thing that they can never find. And I don't understand that.
They had Jay Cutler for a little bit. They had Jay Cutler.
But he wasn't that great.
Yeah, Jay Cutler was a guy that can make every single throw, but wasn't a leader and wasn't consistent. But yeah, they really haven't, they're one of those franchises that when has they really ever had a great quarterback that actually led them somewhere other than, that great defense and that great team in the 80s who stepped up since then. That's 40 years ago? They need help. They need help on offense, man.
The 85 Bears and Jim McMahon was the quarterback then. Yeah. So,
they need help.
Really? All right. So the next game that we have in the afternoon was
what about that fight?
What everybody thought was going to be the game of the week, which was the Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers. But yes, I saw that comment that I believe it was that Brandon put about the fight. So before we jump to San Francisco and Seattle, that fight, I did not understand.
Oh man.
Javon Wims just comes over and punches him with his helmet.
Man.
That to me, well, first he takes his chain and he rips it off and he punches him in the face. So Chris, what was your takeaway on that fight?
Listen, man, it's Twitter comedy, but at the end of the day, he's going to be suspended for a little bit, and I just want to know the backstory because he's not doing that for no reason. So I can't really judge it until I understand the backstory or why he snatched his chain and gave him a couple punches. I just want to know the backstory on that because to do that, something has to happen.
Yeah, so basically what happened to it, and they showed it was like 2 plays before that. And for some reason, the defender he did it to, I think his last name was Johnson. So Johnson went up to Anthony Miller, which is one of the receivers of the Bears. He goes up and takes his finger and puts it in his face mask. He's like just poking him in the face mask. He didn't poke him in the eye. He just went up and touched his face mask. And that made Wims mad. So then 2 plays later, he goes up and he punches him, rips his chain off and punches him. It was because of that, because Wims said, I didn't like how he went up and poked him in the face mask.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, not the right move. You supporting your brother, but at the end of the day, not the right move. Snatching the chain wouldn't have been a problem. We seen Aqib Talib, Mr. Snake Chat, you know what I'm trying to say, chain snatcher himself. We seen him snatch a lot of chains, but punching off, stealing off on him, probably a little, too much. But yeah, that was crazy. There's not a lot to say about that. It's going to be forever a Twitter meme for can't wait to hear a lot of people talk about it tomorrow.
So if you had to put a suspension down on Wims, if you were commissioner, how many games would you give him?
See me, probably two. I'm not. I mean, it wasn't nothing crazy. It was like I'm not really heavy on suspensions. It depends on what it is. And with that, there wasn't a big brawl. It could have we seen bigger brawls. You know, it wasn't a huge fight. I seen bigger fights. You know, 2 3 game suspension. You know, fine and leave it at that. I'm not suspending them for 6 7 games. It could have been a lot worse than what it was. Because at the end of the day, they both still had helmets on. And a lot of people don't think punches and helmets work. But Kendall Lum in the comments, I see you. He can attest to this. I seen people get dropped and knocked out with being punched in the helmet still. So depending on how hard that punch is and where you get punched, I've seen it affect a lot of people.
Yeah, so and I agree with you on that. I'm thinking it'll be like maybe 2 games.
Yeah, 2 3 games.
Is kind of my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving away from that now. Now that other game in the afternoon was the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks, they suffered their first loss last week, and now
Mm-mm.
San Francisco, we all thought was like, okay, maybe they're starting to come back, because they come out and beat the Rams, and they actually beat them fairly easily. So I thought maybe they're starting to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But then today, they did not look like it again. Again, Jimmy Garoppolo struggled, but then you look at the fourth quarter, but that doesn't matter that at that point Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt, George Kittle got hurt, Tevin Coleman got hurt again. So the injuries were starting to pile up again. But at that point, that game, it was already 27-7 at that point.
Game over. I just want to say Russell Wilson played great, but I'm, very, very upset that this man didn't give Tyler Lockett the ball because he messed up my fantasy. I'm pretty sure that's why I'm going to lose because he did not give Tyler Lockett the ball. But on a serious note, I will say this. Yes, the Seahawks had a very, very good game. On the defensive wise, offense, they played, as expected. 4 touchdowns from Russell Wilson, no interceptions, over 250 plus yards. That's what we expect. But, Bobby Wagner, 2 sacks. They had 3 total sacks. I feel like I haven't seen them get 3 sacks in a game in a very, very long time. Yes, you're right. The defense dominated this game. They dominated this game. But, man, I'm just going to throw the question out there. Would this game be the same if everybody was fully healthy this entire game? This question to be asked.
Well, no. I still think it would have. And here's why I'm saying that. Now, are you talking about the whole team in whole or just talking about the players who got hurt today?
Whole team in whole. I think today, I knew it was going to be a dominant game. I knew it was going to be a dominant game. But for me, I wish I was able to see both these teams fully healthy at their healthiest because I think it would have been a way better game. I think the outcome would have been the same. I'm just, curious to hear your thoughts, how you feel about, man, do you think this would have been a better game if both teams were fully healthy? Because I think the Seahawks just fully dominated them. And even with the injuries today, the Seahawks sustained their dominance already. So it was no big of a difference.
Well, if you look at last year, both games that Seattle and San Fran played last year, they came down to basically the final drive. If we remember that one game that the Niners beat Seattle on Sunday night when it was like at the inch line because a Homer could not get in on that little slant and he tried to score but he couldn't do it. That's kind of the game that I suspected we would have gotten had both teams been completely healthy.
Yes.
But Seattle today, they came out and just dominated. This by far this year has been the best defensive game that Seattle has played.
It's not even close to me. It's not close. That 20 points they scored in the fourth quarter. That's why I call it Dallas points. Garbage time. It don't mean anything. Seattle already sustained their dominance throughout this game. They stopped the running game, which was mesmerizing by me because 49ers have one of the best running games, and Seattle has just a terrible defense in general. So the fact that they played this dominant, kudos to them. But let's see how they're going to be able to do that against a team that has everybody fully healthy the entire game.
Yeah, now you were talking about how you were hoping Russell Wilson would have thrown it to Tyler Lockett more. Now,
messed up my fantasy.
No, I get you. So Tyler Lockett, he's been the number one receiver on this team for actually a few years now. But look at DK Metcalf. That he has become a very, very talented receiver.
DK Metcalf is their guy that's going to, one-on-one against anybody. They have faith that he's going to beat everybody. They have faith that he's going to jump over people. But to me, at the end of the day, Tyler Lockett is still this team's true number one. I mean, he's still leading them in yards. He's still leading his team in touchdowns. Yes, DK Metcalf is, emerging into a superstar. Superstar, that's too far. Emerging into a star. But at the end of the day, money on the line, they're going to Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf is their big play receiver. You talking about that true number one, to me, it's still Tyler Lockett. But shout out to DK Metcalf for dominating. A lot of people try to say, his route running is bad. They try to, talk down on him so much. But his athleticism, we cannot teach that. That's why I don't understand why he didn't get drafted higher. You cannot teach the pure God-given athleticism this guy has. You can teach route running with a good wide receiver coach. It's easy. And he had a broken neck. So, of course, he's going to be a little bit sluggish. So I'm glad to see he's dominating. And he's only getting started. Best believe this dude's stats are going to be out of this world for the next couple of years with Russell Wilson.
Now, keep in mind, we were talking about injuries in this game and talking about how on San Francisco's side, their running backs are hurt. Mm-hmm. They seem to get one, and then he comes in, and then he gets hurt. I mean, they've been through Mostert, they've been through Coleman, they've been through McKinnon, they've been through Smiley. But then you also got to look at the Seattle side. Today, pretty much all their running backs were out. They did not have Carson. They did not have Homer.
Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, and they did not have Hyde. So 3 of their running backs today, they did not have. Mm-mm. So they were hurt on the running game also.
And then you got to look at the quarterbacks. You look at both running games, which quarterback you taking. Everybody's taking Russell Wilson over whatever quarterback the 49ers put on the field. That's how, when I look and I evaluate games, you look at the quarterback. You look at everything else. But if it's pretty even, you say, okay, which quarterback you putting your money on at the end of the game? It's always going to be Russell Wilson for me.
Yeah, and I'm not taking Jimmy G over Russell Wilson at any point. Never. I'm not doing that.
Never. And I see Brandon Herrera. Wilson is your 2020 MVP. I will say this, and I picked him to win this MVP, and I think he is the leader. But there's somebody who I think is going to creep up and challenge him for this MVP, and they're in the NFC. Ooh, and it's going to be crazy if he wins it. And I would not be surprised. And I'm talking about Tom Brady. Do not be surprised if this team continues playing how good they are on both ends of the field. He keep putting up great stats. And if their records are similar, I'm going for Russell Wilson. Let me be clear on that. Never received the MVP vote, which is outrageous. I want him to win this. But I would not be surprised if Tom Brady sneaks up on it and with, him being everybody's GOAT in the storylines. I won't be surprised if he pulls it out.
Now, here's my point that you're talking about with Tom Terrific on the MVP side. Mm-hmm. My point, and I mentioned this one other time, my problem with that is that, and I'm not taking anything away from what Brady has accomplished in his career or whatever. I'm looking at everybody that's on the Buccaneers. They have a Mike Evans. They have a Godwin. They just got an Antonio Brown. They have a Gronkowski. They have a Brate. Then in the backfield, they have Leonard Fournette. They have a Ronald Jones. So I'm looking at that going, you know what? He should be expected to put up that many touchdowns. Almost any quarterback that goes in and plays on that team should be expected to put up numbers. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, how can you give an MVP to somebody that should throw that many touchdowns with a stacked team like that?
Because that's what the NFL, even the NBA, that's what they all do. They don't. I think when they vote, because if it was truly on the award most valuable player, who brings the most value to their team, Russell Wilson would have 3 or 4 of them. Aaron Rodgers would have a lot more. These teams that actually everybody can tell watching, they're the reason why their team wins every Sunday. They would have a lot more. But the MVP voting, how they vote, not how I vote, but how they vote and look at it is by, who had the best stats, the best yards. They don't care about who's on their roster. And, and just to touch on that, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks have weapons, put up yards, stats, and no wins. And everybody can know who I'm talking about. Don't got to say his name. Not taking anything away from him. And there's a lot of quarterbacks, like that, like him. So he can have all the stats and the yards, but is he producing wins? But personally, I agree with you. It should be Russell Wilson. He is by far the most valuable quarterback to his team. You take Russell Wilson off this team, especially the past couple of years, they're top 10 in a lottery. They're bad. They're bad. He's the reason why they win these games. He's never missed a game so far, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. That's why I picked him early in the year to win MVP. And the stats he's putting up, I didn't think he'd put up because they're a running team. But since he's putting them up, it should just automatically be his because he's having top QB numbers now.
Yeah, so this season so far, this was Russell Wilson's third game this year that he's thrown 4+ TD passes with 0 interceptions.
He might break Peyton Manning's record for most touchdowns in a year. I think he might break it.
He's definitely on pace, and I'll tell you that. It's he's right now he's got 26.
26 week. What are we, a week 8?
Yeah.
So I say he'll have 45 plus.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll break it, but I say he had 45 plus.
Because I was gonna say right now he'd be on pace for like 52 at this point in time.
Yeah.
So
I would love to see him break it just because I feel like that would just help stamp his Hall of Fame career. But man, we're gonna have to wait and see. It'd be nice to see him do it though.
All right, so before we call it a night, and I kind of feel like it's something that you wanted to talk about because you were asking about it before we went live, but the Steelers and the Ravens. Was that something you wanted to touch on?
Let's talk about it. Listen, everybody that knows me know I have, family that are all Ravens fans. And no, the Steelers did not win this game. The Ravens lost this game. The Ravens dominated the Steelers the entire game. Like if you didn't watch, the Steelers, they couldn't do anything on offense. Their first 14 points was because of 2 interceptions Lamar had. You look at the first one, it was a pick 6. The second one, they were already in the red zone after the interception. Lamar, on paper says he threw 2. He really threw 3. One interception Joe Hayden caught. They said he didn't have full control. So to me, Lamar Jackson played terrible. They did have – the crazy thing is, listen, Pittsburgh has the best run defense in the NFL, and they ran for 265 yards, and they still lost. Why is that? Because of the quarterback play of Lamar Jackson. I don't put it on his defense, because the Steelers were in very good field position most of their points. I honestly believe Lamar Jackson is the reason why the Ravens lost this game. They want to talk about passing where none of his receivers are really, really getting open like that. So who can he really pass to on a consistent basis? You look at, Steelers' offense, they weren't great at all. Like I said, they barely had to, move the ball down the field a lot. To me, Lamar Jackson, I think this really hurt him. If you ask me, I think he's still talented. I do. But right now, I see your comment, Kendall. Lamar has to become a better passer for the Ravens to win. Not necessarily because, like I said, who is he passing to? Who really created space? Who really got open? A lot. And then at the end of the day, when they would get open, he was getting sacked. So, no, I don't feel like he has to become a better passer. I think he's a good passer. Now, yes, I will say no. I will say this. Those 3 interceptions he thrown, because I'm counting the one that they didn't count, because when they go look at film, they're going to say that it was an interception because it was in his hands. Those 3 interceptions he threw are very, very bad passes. He's trying to gamble. I do think he needs to work on that. But I don't think he's a bad passer. That's why I like the addition of Dez Bryant, because he's a guy that I hope that becomes on the main squad. He's a guy that you can rely on. Man, Lamar Jackson, I know a lot of people are looking at him like he, is going to be going to that RG3 role, quarterback that can run and not pass. But at the end of the day, he's still a very, very good quarterback. Not, it's not going to make me dislike him anymore. It's just going to make me have to see more to, truly believe more. But I still think he's great.
So, 2 things on this. Number one is we all know that Steelers defense is legit. Like they are.
Oh, they're legit. They're legit.
Yeah, they're really, really good. I really wasn't. I do agree with your take though that the Ravens basically let they helped the Steelers win.
They gave the Steelers the victory.
Lamar Jackson had to play better. Now to start the season when everybody was hyped on the Ravens, going, the Ravens had gotten better. I didn't see it. So at the beginning of the year, I was like, no, I really don't think they have. Lamar Jackson, I normally agree with you on a lot of things, Chris, but the one thing that I would say I don't right now, and I do agree with Kendall on, is that Lamar Jackson does have to become a better passer. And I know you're saying he doesn't really have much to throw to.
He's not throwing to nobody. Their offense to me is simple to guard. You have a tight end that's their best receiver and two speedsters. They're the only you look at his big passes. They only got it the deep passes because it was they had a one good play where he pumped it. The dude got the safety, got by him. Other than that, it was on some blown coverages. The guy getting the ball and catching it run. These wide receivers aren't getting open. So when you have a quarterback. And you have first of all, two offensive linemen got hurt this game, so that is one of the reasons why the Pittsburgh were getting a lot of pressure on him. But when you have wide receivers and tight ends that are not getting open, yes, those interceptions were bad, but who's he really passing to at the end of the day?
He does have Hollywood Brown.
He cannot get open. Like you look at it, like he has. Listen, this is why I've been saying the Ravens are not going to win until they get a true wide receiver. They fix their defensive line. Listen, the defense for the Ravens is not the problem. They held their running game under 50 yards, and they held Big Ben to under 200. They played a very good game defensively. It's on their offense. This is why I say they need a wide receiver. They ran for over 265 yards, but when it's time to pass the ball, who is getting open? And I do believe with two injuries to the offensive line, it was a reason why Pittsburgh were getting after him. I think they would have got after him regardless, but it was a big help in that. But who is really getting open? Like I said, you guard the tight end, Hollywood Brown and Willie Snead. They're not really coming across the middle when there's a lot of people in the middle. They're trying to get open, use their speed. You don't have nobody that can really go up and get it. That's why they need a wide receiver. Hollywood Brown, is a good deep threat, but they're not worried about Hollywood Brown coming across the middle, doing certain routes because that's not anything he do. You look at the play where it could have been a touchdown. Number one wide receivers are making that toe tap. Mostly every single receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers are making that toe tap. Devontae Adams is making that toe tap. Travis Fulgham is making that toe tap. DK, Tyler Lockett are making that toe tap. You say he wants targets, but it's plays like that. Great wide receivers are making that catch in the end zone touchdown. So he doesn't have the best wide receiver weapons to me. I know he played bad, but still, he has no weapons.
So with what you have seen from Pittsburgh so far this year, since they're the last remaining undefeated team in the NFL, do you feel like they're the most complete team and the best team in the NFL at this point?
Wow. Most complete, the best team. I will say this for those that don't know, Pittsburgh made a trade with the Jets and they just acquired Avery Williamson, a very good linebacker. To help that linebacker depth with Devin Bush being out. So it's tough for me. It's close. It's hard. When the more I think about it, it's hard. Honestly, you talking about complete teams, really between them and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay to me has a little, the same amount of wide receiver weapons because you have Juju, you have Claypool. You have Eric Ebron, the tight end, that's very, very good. You have McLeod, who's their speedster. Johnson, that's their speedster. When I look at the running game, if James Conner's not there, who's there? When I look at Buccaneers, they have two very, very good running backs. Quarterbacks, they both can make plays. So, to me, I think those two teams probably the most complete. But, it's tough because their offense, they didn't do anything against. But Baltimore has a great defense, but they still didn't do anything. So, I'm not, truly convinced on Pittsburgh yet. I'm not taking anything away from them, but let's not sit up here and act like they played lights out on the offensive end tonight. They didn't at all. They're a very good ball club, but their offense still didn't play great.
Yeah, because if you take James Conner away, he's handing off to a guy by the name of Benny Snell, which everyone's like, who? The guy's been around for a couple years, but hasn't done much.
They were 3 for 9 on third downs.
Right.
They were 3 for 9 on third downs. Their offense Baltimore's defense really shut them down the entire game. The only reason why Pittsburgh scored so many points was because of the bad play of Lamar Jackson. Simple.
So before I forget and before we call it a night, you're talking about the offensive side for Baltimore. How much of an impact do you think Dez Bryant is going to make? We know that Baltimore went out and signed him, but let's keep in mind he has not played in a couple of years, so we don't even know what Dez Bryant's going to look like. And it's a wait and see, but
it's a wait and see. Best case scenario, he's a guy that's on, the second downs, the third downs. No, he's probably not going to play every single down. Yes, he can help with, they run the ball a lot, so he could be, a run blocker out there. But to me, he's a guy that you can move all around the offense, a guy that I think Lamar Jackson can lean on and trust. When you're a quarterback, you need guys that you can trust, that you can create a connection with. when it's a third and long or, a third and short and you need a first down, you can look to them and trust them. I think Des Bryant is going to be that guy. If everything goes well, I think he's a guy that, he might not be the fastest, but I think, he'll run a slant across the middle great and get open, which every quarterback needs. I feel like on the fades, you can trust him, and he's another red zone threat. So to me, barring, he's fully healthy, he's, looking good out there, I do think he'll have a very, very, immediate impact for this Baltimore Ravens team, an Anquan Bolden type of impact for this Baltimore Ravens team.
All right. So that was great. I completely agree with you on the Des Bryant take. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to basically wrap up any remaining things you need to say. So you got 30 seconds starting now.
Listen, fly equals fly. Dallas Cowboys fans, I really do not care for your excuses because when my team was hurt and I said, oh, injuries, y'all said, oh, it doesn't matter. No excuses. So I really don't want to hear, oh, we have a third string quarterback because if y'all would have won, where were those excuses? And if I would have said, oh, but my team's injured, but my offensive line, you would say no excuses. So Dallas Cowboys fans, you can save all the excuses for yourself. I don't want to hear it. You just mad you lost. You just mad you suck. I said in the beginning of the year, y'all were going to be disappointed. Y'all not surprising me. Y'all not. So stay down there, bottoms of the division. Y'all haven't won in 25, more than 25 years. Y'all haven't won since, 25 years. You're not going to win in the next 25 years. Stay trash. Fly equals fly. When we become healthy, we're going to make a Super Bowl run. You can guarantee that.
All right. So I want to thank Christopher Brown, as always, the ever-intelligent Christopher Brown. It's been a fun night. I want to give a shout-out to our producer behind the scenes, and Mr. Nate the Great back there. And I really want to give a shout out to Brandon Herrera, which left some comments tonight. I want to give a shout out to Kendall Lum for leaving some comments, and everybody else who have been coming on and watching our shows and leaving comments. Thank you very, very much. And we will actually be seeing you again tomorrow night, as you will actually see Christopher Brown and Freddie Henderson, and then Coach Cam on Real Talk tomorrow. So I hope everybody's looking forward to seeing that. And then after that, you will see us again for the Monday night post-game show. So I really hope everybody has a fantastic night, and I hope you all enjoy your evening and have a great night. And Chris, you have a fantastic night yourself.
You too, man. To all the listeners, thank you for listening. Peace out.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.